So to start and just make it a bit more interactive and warm up, I wanted you to scan this QR code and maybe answer, like, what do you think governance in the Web3 today is? Like, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? I think we just have like so many great talks today about governance, and it's very interesting based on, you know, the background of the person, whether he comes or she comes from technical or legal background, or maybe none of them. And it's nice just to see what are the insights and what are the state of governance today in the Web3 according to, if you're submitting answers and it's not showing up, that's not really good, is it? No, oh, wait, that's, okay, good. So we have hate, we have love, we have vote and peace, buzzword, rabbit hole, politics, still early, experimenting, decentralized, favorite word, delegate, technical, still early again, politics, there's a lot of politics, interesting, messy, I love that. I think I would agree with most of them. There's definitely a lot of politics. We have some more answers. Peace. I'm not sure. I think ideally, but more often than not, it is messy, chaotic, rarely decentralized. Right, and often complex. So, okay, so I'm working at Kleros as a researcher, and my presentation does not cooperate with me today. Great. I'm also a researcher at Blockchain Gov, and I do my PhD in Paris 2 University. So I've entered space in 2016. When I was a law student, I was interested in the recent developments. There was a lot of initiatives back then about like crypto assets. How do we define them? How do we just create legal frameworks around them? And then I did my bachelor's on it, then I did my master's, and now I'm doing PhD. Basically never left, here we go. Now I'm focusing for the past 3 years on dispute resolution. I'm curious about everything that comes around legal and governance related. And recently, together with my colleagues from Blockchain Gov, we were analyzing basically 11 blockchain networks, and there are pretty interesting insights. So we published this report in collaboration with Project Liberty. I encourage you to take a look. That's not an academic report. That is a governance toolkit cookbook. So if you were involved, are involved in governance, looking forward to be involved in governance, I think that would be a pretty interesting read, just because it's very accessible. We purposely made it so that it's not as like heavy academic report that you would usually see. It's a pretty concentrated, refined insight that we've observed in the ecosystem. So at this point, I think we can all agree that there's no single recipe how governance for any decentralized blockchain-based project should look like. It all depends where your values are, what do you want to, what are your overarching goals, right? So depending on the system, whether you want to make it more efficient. We talked about it. Some of the speakers presented earlier today talked about inclusivity, or perhaps the trade-off of that would be cost efficiency. Then we have immutability. Do we want our governance frameworks and rules be immutable for predictable operations, or do we want something that is adaptable, that we can mold and edit and change based on the context? And then, of course, discretion and determinism. And we have also just different takes when it comes to governance rules and how they should be performed. And then based on that, based on where your interest values, how do you define your community, and how do you want your governance to progress, there are safeguards to upkeep basically any of the above and more. That is just some of the examples. And again, if you want to learn more, I suggest you to take a look at the report. We have what we define like, a recipe where you can pick ingredients and then refine your flavors and, continue to basically refine your recipe. So hopefully you will achieve your desired governance framework. But there are safeguards in place to upkeep whatever chosen form of governance. And very often they vary, and they include several of them sometimes because one does not exclude the other. And very often in governance systems, we see implementation of different, mostly both on-chain and off-chain governance safeguards. But today, I want to focus on dispute resolution specifically. And when we talk about blockchain-based dispute resolution, at least in like legal researcher field, we often talk about online dispute resolution, alternative dispute resolution. How can we, through the use of blockchain technology, enhance the courts, enhance the dispute resolution scene? And while I think it is important to talk about that, I believe that blockchain-based dispute resolution, at least what I do in my research, is to prove that it's there because there's blockchain-based relationship. And because it includes humans, we're prone to disputes. There are relationships that has to be governed. Therefore, there is a dispute resolution to support that relationship. To make sure, so in this presentation, in my own research, I try to take a step back and not view it as an enhancement of, already available alternative dispute resolution forms, but more so to see, okay, we have on-chain relationship, we have to have dispute resolution to support it. Very similarly to what happened in early 2000s with, one of the earliest marketplaces, and we had one of the earliest examples of online dispute resolution, which was eBay dispute resolution. Again, I don't think when they were creating it, I know when they were creating it, they weren't creating it from the point of, okay, we need to revolutionize courts now. No, they had a problem. They had a lot of buyers and sellers entering very small disputes. And interestingly, from Colin Rule, the creator of eBay dispute resolution, he himself stated that when he was designing this system, he observed that the sellers and the buyers needed something that is reliable, efficient, and fast. So people didn't necessarily care about fairness per se. They just wanted a reliable instrument that they know that they will solve disputes for them. So I think that, again, we're talking about very small in majority of it, dispute claims. And that is very important when we talk about blockchain-based dispute resolution as well. I think often we make a mistake of taking criticism that maybe online dispute resolution court face and transport it to blockchain-based dispute resolution. I don't think it makes sense all the time, but I will show you why. So that's just an example how internet evolved. Now we have Web3, and Web3 is evolving as well. Therefore, we need some sort of dispute resolution to support it. So very, very briefly, broad categorization is from fully on-chain to fully off-chain. I'm going to give a couple of examples a bit later. I think pretty much it's self-explanatory, right? But blockchain-based dispute resolution involves implementation of blockchain technology at some stage of the process. Fully on-chain means that at every stage of the process, there's blockchain technology that is being involved, from the initiation of the dispute to the dispute, juror selection, decision-making, and then the enforcement. Hybrid models usually involve dispute resolution at some stage, but often, for example, enforcement just unrealistic, like to achieve through smart contracts for whatever reasons. For example, I don't know, we decide to utilize blockchain-based dispute resolution, but we didn't allocate the funds on-chain before, therefore there's nothing for smart contracts to enforce, things like that. And then off-chain. So strictly speaking, this is not blockchain-based dispute resolution. This is something that involves mediation, negotiation. That is something that blockchain communities widely use because, again, we're humans, we're prone to disputes. And if you've been involved in any governance drama, you would know that there's a lot to unpack. So negotiation, mediation is very useful. However, it's not strictly blockchain-based because it's completely off-chain, to be fair. Often it's done through means like Zoom. However, it relates to blockchain relationship. That's why I thought it's good to include it here. And there are a couple of projects that are doing a pretty good job with that. So a couple of examples. Kleros, of course, not just because I worked there, but also because from 2017 there was a booming fashion for dispute resolution in blockchain. And there are a couple of projects that are being cited alongside Kleros still nowadays. I'm not going to name them, but if you do see them, there are two of them. They no longer exist. I don't know why they're still being named. And in academic literature as well, this is what I'm trying to also do in my research. I try to highlight the actual state of dispute resolution in blockchain ecosystems. So we don't go inside the same thing all over again, and we just actually look and see whether those courts function at all. So arbitration means that, in Kleros ecosystem at least, that we have everything, the ability to have everything on chain. There's also ability for hybrid solutions. And very quickly, we'd like to mention that one use case that we had, which happened in Mexico. Two parties, tenant and landlord, had an argument, but before that, they had contractual relationship, and they decided if we have a dispute, we will utilize like Kleros services. They had an arbitrator. They appointed him. He submitted manually all the case details to Kleros, and basically jurors were drawn. And the decision, how do you enforce something like that, like tenant, landlord decision? You can't enforce it. So they took that decision to court, and the court enforced it through the public force. So that spiked discussion over the first recognition of blockchain-based arbitration. I mean, the only thing court did is that it didn't mind two parties using Kleros as a form of ADR, right? And we don't know what would have happened if one of the parties didn't agree with that or something else. But this is a good example of hybrid. It's happened, and yeah, why not? Although that is not the main use case for blockchain-based dispute resolution, but I just wanted to highlight that this can also take place. So mediation and negotiation. So Gravity DAO, for example, they're doing quite a good job. They are providing consultations, community consultations and training, and but it's completely off-chain. And what they're doing, I think it's great. Blockchain related, not on-chain at all. But I think it's worth mentioning because that is also a very important part of efficient and successful governance. We have communities, and very often things like culture, some minor interpersonal disputes are being overlooked, and they consist of very, it's like a ticking bomb. And then we have some of the new projects pop up. So I was like, I'm going to be impartial. I'm going to include other projects, right? And the truth is that there are many of them. However, there are not that many of them that actually work and that have any caseload. So one that I'm curious about is Peacekeepers project, because they kind of promise to do something similar to what Kleros does, but with curated list of mediators. And yeah, we'll see how it goes, because for now they are, I think, in a beta version, and they haven't had any cases as of right now. But it's an interesting take, because when we talk about Kleros system, we have anonymized pool of jurors, and Peacekeeper project, from what I'm understanding, they want to take a different take on it and have professional mediators mediate the disputes that would be potentially enforceable for smart contracts. I'm not sure how, but we'll see. And then Kleros case study. So it's been around 2017, 2018. As of right now, we have more than 1,600 cases. So very quickly, we have arbitral side, we have arbitrator side. Kleros court, this is basically where all the disputes end up going. And in order to engage with Kleros ecosystem, you can either be a platform or a partner or a person who wants to utilize it for dispute resolution services, or you can be a person who wants to deliberate or participate as a juror, and then you would be able to just stake certain amount of like PNK, which is a native token in Kleros ecosystem, and you'll be able to participate, and by participating you would choose a court which you want to participate, stake there, and once you've been called, which is anonymized random selection of jurors, you would be able to deliberate. Very quickly, you'll have to examine the evidence and basically vote. Most cases it's binary choice, yes, no, refuse to arbitrate. And based on that, you'll be either in the majority, and based on Schelling points, if anybody's familiar with that, probably most of you, you would end up winning and you would be paid, or you would end up losing, and your stake would be also taken away. So that guarantees that we don't have so-called like lazy juror voter problem, that people actually spend time into examining the evidence, they go through it, and they put time into what do you think other jurors might vote as well. So, and then we have arbitrable side, and most of the partners or the project that we develop within Kleros ecosystem, we have the disputes going automatically there. Some of the most famous examples would be Proof of Humanity, which is one of the most famous courts, which is basically identity system on blockchain, is a registry, civil resistant registry on blockchain of humans. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. But if you are, we had a very interesting governance case past couple of years. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So let's go a little bit further. I don't have time to go in detail, but basically that is the graph, how it works. So one of the examples that our CEO loves to give is that if, for example, we have like, I don't know, service provider, client relationship, we decide to utilize Kleros, we use escrow service, and we allocate a certain amount of money. Let's say you're not happy the way I performed my services, and you think that I shouldn't be paid. Then we escalate the dispute, and then based on the parameters we chose, a certain amount of jurors would be drawn to court, and they will deliberate. And based on that deliberation, the funds would be either released or not, and there is also several rounds of possible appeals. That would be fully on-chain, so the hybrid version of it would be if we didn't allocate the funds, and then we would still have the decision, right? But we would either have to take it as a non-binding sort of ADR and be like, okay, that would make sense, should we agree to that? But then also, if you don't have cooperating party, how do you ensure that? So I think this is like very promising to talk about blockchain-based dispute resolution as an enhancement of, options in dispute resolution that we already have, like as an alternative to go to court, or as an alternative to go to ODR system, like online court, which has its own, disadvantages as well as advantages, I guess. But what we actually talk about when we approach blockchain-based dispute resolution is something that is completely on-chain. And most of the use cases, it's curation, it's challenges, it's prediction markets, it's insurance, things like Proof of Humanity, which is, again, civil resistant list of registered humans. So that is basically the kind of life of the arbitration case. And then again, if I'm not wrong, we now have the parameters allow up to 7 rounds of appeals. So if you think that the court wasn't fair, the jurors were biased, you always have an option to appeal. And interestingly, I think we had a couple of pretty big cases. If you're curious, you could just Google Kleros famous cases. We had some of them that were quite big in monetary compensation as well. So yeah, but most of them, they are concerning something that's completely on-chain, that is completely, like automated, and something that doesn't draw that much of attention, which I think, again, like it's great benefit, because for things like prediction markets, or for things like on-chain governance or parameters, how would you go and where would you seek that efficient way of mainstreaming that like decision-making process. So surely there are a lot of criticism, there are a lot of challenges, and we covered that in a paper together with my colleagues. I think the one that I'm focused on right now is legal challenges. I'm a lawyer, I have legal background, and at the end of my thesis right now, I'm trying to tackle the problem of regulatory equivalence. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but basically for projects like Kleros or for other blockchain-based dispute resolution projects, if they do seek that regulatory compliance, because for now, you know, all the speculations that it might be compliant with the New York Convention or with UNCITRAL laws or with something else, it just kind of it's unfounded because there's no enough evidence. There's no jurisdiction that would have specifically blockchain-based dispute resolution rules. There is some movements in this regard. Mexico, that I mentioned before, recently passed amendment to its arbitration laws that included the use of blockchain technology in arbitration, which is, I think, quite great. And we also have, for example, jurisdictions like UK, and they had a couple of years back when, you know, blockchain was the buzzword that AI is now. They published something like digital dispute resolution rules. But again, it's not a law. It's something that is maybe like a recommended legal framework, I guess, at best. So my take is that let's see what are the requirements for alternative dispute resolution like arbitration are in jurisdictions like UK and Mexico. And let's see to which point blockchain-based dispute resolution systems can fit into that framework. If not, what are the changes that could be adapted for platforms that choose to fit into legal framework, so that they could do that as a subcourt or something that they could do in their version 2 and etc. So of course there's scalability and technological challenges. I've mentioned now my colleagues working on the Kleros version 2, and as I said, most of the, it's not just Kleros, there's, for example, UMA with data verification mechanism, also Oracle, Optimistic Oracle, they also work in a binary mode. And that is the, like, surely there could be more, but that is just the state of it is right now. It's binary. In the future, there could be more, and my colleagues are working on that. But that relates also to scalability. Then we also have just platform availability and user awareness. Again, that brings me to the point where people still reference projects that are no longer existent. Some of them moved on, some of them gave speeches today, and that's great for them. But I think it's also, you know, we have to have updated information for both users, for both projects that want to utilize but don't know where to go, and also just improved user interface. I think even if you're in Web3 ecosystem, I think there's still a lot to do in terms of making sure that those solutions, those tools that we provide DAOs for the better governance, they are actually accessible. And yeah, all our other challenges that we have right now, interestingly, well, in Kleros model, jurors are anonymous, okay, pseudonymous. They're not fully anonymous. Nothing on blockchain is, I would say, is completely anonymous if you do leave some track of what you're doing, or there's some identifiable information about, not maybe you personally, but about your action. There's some digital footprint. So in Kleros ecosystem, you don't have to reveal your name. You don't have to reveal your education or anything of the sort, which I think is an advantage, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is, you're, as a juror, you're staking only in those courts where you have high confidence that you would be successful. Like, I wouldn't go and stake in technical court because I'm not a coder. So why would I do that? But I would go and stake somewhere that, for example, related to translation services, where I speak both languages and I feel rather confident about my odds. So a lot of criticism goes towards having, you know, jurors that aren't like, they don't have some like educational requirements or like KYC. And again, I think the choice of words also matter. In Kleros, we use terms such as court, jurors, case. All of that, I think, automatically link us to traditional courts, where we have juror system. And juror system, in our traditional understanding, is like civil duty, something that you don't have a choice. in doing or not doing. This is something that is completely different in spirit and nature, but we do have similar terminology. So I think it's fair that sometimes we get confused and we say, how come that jurors are being compensated or there is economic incentive for them to participate? I personally don't see a problem with that because, again, we're not solving criminal cases. It's not that deep. We are facilitating governance, and that is amazing, and that is what it's for. So I think it's great to kind of expand what Web3 can offer to us and to see where it can apply. But also, let's be realistic. Let's use the tools that we have for what we need it for. And then when there's anything else outside of that, amazing, great. If somebody actually goes and uses Kleros as an alternative to going to court, that would be amazing, and especially if it works for them. And we have a lot of research that goes around possible adaptation of Kleros in countries where there's just no court system, there's no legal frameworks, there's, you know, just nothing. And that would be amazing. But yeah, I think my main focus of research is to basically see how it operates, how blockchain communities facilitate dispute resolution, and how it can actually enhance governance. And yeah, that's the paper that I've mentioned together with my colleagues. If you want to read through the criticism and the way we address it and some of the most common points of questions, it will all be there. And I think that's it. Thank you so much.
For one more question. Anyone has a question? Okay, so no more questions. But I was really intrigued about Kleros. They are very famous in Argentina. Actually, one of the projects you mentioned was from there. And I wanted to ask if you are there from the beginning, or how did you end up there?
In Kleros?
Yes.
Okay, so I mentioned that I've been in the blockchain space from 2016. Back then I was a law student. I was organizing local blockchain communities in my university. I was participating in the drafting of the law to regulate crypto assets in Russia back in that time in 2016. I think when I progressed and then I was doing law full time, I was consulting crypto projects, and then I just wanted to move to research in Web3 ecosystem full time. And back then my my corporate job didn't allow me that. And then I was just looking through different options. I was curious about, you know, dispute resolution, that what I did. And I came across Kleros project. And yes, I was just following it. I was there was an incentive program back then that you could basically participate in storytelling and get some rewards for that. And there was one creator that was doing it in Russian. And then I saw that they had an opening job, and then I applied, and then I frankly stalked our CEO, saying that I think I would be actually quite good at it. And then he had no choice but to give up and actually hire me. So that's how it went. And 3 years later, we're here. Couldn't be happier. Amazing team. If you have any questions, we have Jean and Juan, and they're great people to chat about Kleros.